Dan Weston recorded
Dan Weston recorded it.
And you
I
did a
remember,
fantastic
I
job.
produced it.
I have a distinct memory of Dan
Crossing dates out on a calendar
and saying,
weekends.
fuck my life, fuck my life, fuck my life.
Hello, and welcome to the Build Your Own Band podcast, the podcast made for independent artists who want to grow their band in an organic, purposeful, and self-determined manner. I am your host, Vince Soliferi, and welcome to episode 9 of the Build Your Own Band podcast. It's been quite a while since I've put out an episode, and to be completely honest, it'll probably be a long time until I put out another episode. It's a ton of work, and lately my priorities have been elsewhere, but I wanted to put this episode out because it's been sitting on my hard drive for a long time, and I think it's a good time to put it out because one of our guests today is putting out some new music, so it feels like it lines up nicely. I recorded this episode nearly a year ago, so it feels good to finally put it out. And today's guests are Peter and Jeff Van Helvoort. If you're unfamiliar with Peter and Jeff, they are brothers, and together they are most known for playing in the band Teenage Kicks. If you live in Canada, and particularly in Southern Ontario, when you hear Teenage Kicks, it probably sparks a lot of memories for you and a lot of joy because people love that band and they're incredible. Pete and Jeff are brothers, and I think that's cool because I come from a family of musical brothers. So it's fascinating to talk to people who have similar experiences to growing up playing music with your brother like I do. And although Teenage Kicks isn't around anymore, Pete and Jeff still are active in making music. Pete is the bass player for one of the biggest bands in Canada, the Glorious Sons. Pete also played in a band called Darling Congress, and he's always putting out solo music under his name. And Jeff plays under many of projects, including his solo project called Given Name, his other solo project, which is a heavier band called Soma Sema, and most notably his band Actor, who just put out a single last week. Check it out if you haven't listened to it already. I'll put the link in the show notes. But I loved recording this episode with Pete and Jeff. It was cool to hear how they grew up playing music together and how they started Teenage Kicks and their philosophy on creating music. And in this conversation, I thought it was really interesting to talk about Pete and Jeff about how high their standards are in regard to musicianship and creating music. These guys do not mess around. They're killer players and they expect the best out of themselves and they expect the best out of the people they're playing with. And I think that's hugely important when being in a band and trying to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Typically, I plug a bunch of stuff that I'm working on or my demo template or whatever, but if you listen to the show, you know the whole spiel about that. So we'll get right into the episode. Here's episode 9 with Pete and Jeff Van Helvoort. Welcome, Peter and Jeff Van Helvoort, to the Build Your Own Band podcast. Said this off camera, but I'll say it again. We're in an anonymous location that we cannot disclose. But I like the vibe here.
It's a good
I'm
vibe.
happy with it.
Yeah,
So,
good last minute. I mean, it's a last minute choice.
It is very close to my house. I literally walked here. It took me 2 minutes. So
nice.
if people find out where this is, they'll basically know where I live. That's not good for me. But I appreciate you coming on the show, and I'm excited to chat with you guys. First, brothers on the show.
Oh, that's nice.
And I come from a family of musical brothers.
Yeah.
My brother is a drummer. He plays in a band called Red Hill Valleys. I've talked about him and that band on this show before. Excellent band. So I have my own personal feelings about growing up playing music with your brother. And I'm very interested in hearing some of your experiences. So yeah, Acton, Ontario is where it all started.
Yep.
Yeah. So how young were you when you started playing music? And did you start playing music together or separately?
So separate. So I'll probably start, I would think.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, my dad found a drum kit in the garbage, I do believe. It's like a Rogers drum kit.
Yeah.
My dad used to play. He started very late. Like I think he started
28,
29, he started playing music, but his like ability is quite small, but he has a really good voice. He's just like someone who can kind of just sing, like always has been able to sing. His voice just sounds the way that it does. He can kind of sing everything. And so he was around and, playing acoustic with the neighbors and our Uncle Tom and stuff like that. But Dad brought home these drums and I picked out a group of, I guess it would have been cassette tapes from Columbia House. And, it was Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nevermind, 10.
Pearl Jam's 10. Obviously.
Yeah, Pearl Jam's 10. Like, just like that. It was 91. So I was 6. It was like that group of stuff. And I basically, with a girl who lived a few houses over, Mary Crosney, we would like lip sync to these tapes, and I would pretend to play the drums. And my dad had a Hohner Les Paul copy that we would just strum along. So that was kind of like the first like time I was involved in music in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
It's crazy because you never got better at the drums.
Your peak was 6.
I've been playing quite a bit lately, and I'm getting pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, level 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at level 2. So that was just kind of like the initial, desire to play music. And then in elementary school, I guess it would have been grade 6 or grade 7. I think I would have had like, Dad had an Eterna, which I think was made by Yamaha acoustic guitar. And that's when I think I played in the choir, maybe.
I think you did.
Yeah. But I was still like not really knowing or learning how to play. And that was a pretty big through line of like my early time of playing music was like being like, I don't need to take any lessons.
Wow.
I'll figure it out.
To be fair, you think that our dad, who could play guitar, he would have been like, son, here are some chords.
Yeah, didn't do that.
But he never did that.
I took one guitar lesson with this guy named Mike Vanderzan at a place in Acton that sold like CDs and t-shirts. And I took one lesson with him, and then I was just kind of on my own. I remember having like tab paper, and I would write songs on the tab paper that I had no idea what they sounded like or how I would play them. I would just like write numbers in the tab spaces.
You're writing your own tabs.
I was writing
oh my God.
writing my own tabs. And that's not supposed to sound like I'm a genius. I'm like literally an idiot who's just like writing like I'm essentially writing computer code, like ones and zeros on like these lines.
It's almost more telling of the time frame that you were learning music more than your actual.
Yeah. And then I basically went into high school, and that was when I started kind of like writing my own songs. And that would probably be around when Jeff started getting interested in music, because I got, great story, in grade 9.
Oh, not this again.
In grade 9, I got a very, very nice Christmas present from my parents. I got a 1976 Les Paul Custom.
Holy shit.
That a friend that I had made in my first month or two at school, his dad literally had this guitar sitting underneath his bed, and it had been under there for years and years and years. Sold it to my parents for $650. And that was my Christmas present. Jeff got the lowest tier Ibanez guitar for Christmas the same year. So he would have been in grade 6. And I'm like sitting on the end of my bed playing this guitar, and Jeff comes in to the room with his guitar and a strap, and he's like, look at this. And he just like basically just lets the guitar go, and it goes right into the face of the Les Paul. It takes a huge chunk out of the face of it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'll let you take it.
Tell us your perspective.
Okay.
From there, in terms
got this
Actually, the Les Paul hit me.
because that's when I started writing my own music. Or do you want me to go until I'm actually like recording music?
I want to hear Jeff's side of the Les Paul story.
No, that is accurate. I will. Peter lies about a lot of things, but that is that story is accurate. So I mean, I think I started. I had lessons at school. That was like once or twice, something like that, in grade 7 or 8. And at that time I was into nu metal and started playing with my friend Brendan. And we were just like, we were writing our own quote unquote songs, but it was just like him and I in the basement. And we did that for a little bit. And then once I got to high school, then I started, because I think the incident would have been grade 9. I was in grade 9, yeah. So when I was in grade 9, I, found people. We didn't know any drummers. Like there were no drummers.
No, not in Acton.
Yeah. For context, for people, like it's not a large town. It's not a major city.
Yeah, small town. So small town outside of, 45 minutes west of Toronto-ish. Closest big town is Guelph. So started playing music, found other people in Georgetown, because there were a lot of musicians in Georgetown. So found people in Georgetown, started a punk band with them, writing our own songs, and kind of did that for a little bit. And then Peter.
Well, so when I was in grade 9, I recorded the first thing I ever recorded, which was through, I think, probably the microphone on mom and dad's
Yeah,
like
I think so,
PC
yeah.
computer.
Yeah.
And it was called, the band was Third Leg. And I've told this story before, but the first 3 bands that I was in were all like penis references. Because when I was growing up, I had a penis. No.
Long gone
Yeah.
now.
When I was growing up,
Too much trouble.
I was into, like all the alternative
Yeah.
stuff. Like I grew up on the edge. And then as soon as I got into grade 9, it was like pop punk. Like I was just
Right.
obsessed with Blink-182. That was like my first real show was Gob and Bush. Actually, it was like a secret show that I called in and like won tickets to. But my second show was Blink-182 at Maple Leaf Gardens, and I was obsessed. So everything I did
was it the Mark, Tom, and Travis tour?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Iconic.
Yeah. So everything that I did was goofy. It was just like, it was all funny. They were all funny songs. It was all kind of like, toilet humor. So the first band I was in that was just me and a guitar, it was called Third Leg. And it was called One Man Band with a Side Order of Andy.
Oh, this is the neighbor.
And it was just my neighbor Andy, who played nothing, who was just like my biggest fan. And it was like an MS Paint like picture of him on the like cover going like this. So
I forgot to add this into the list of bands.
Yeah.
This
is new to me.
Yeah.
I did that. And from that point, I got my first like interface, and I started recording myself with just like a 2-channel interface in our basement. And because we were in a tiny little place where, there wasn't anything, I started putting on my own shows.
Okay.
And so when I started putting on my own shows, I started, a band, a pop punk band still, but a pop punk band that actually had members other than myself and Andy, who played nothing. And that's when I started doing shows, and like I would make my own CDs. And because I would go to shows in Brampton and Burlington at the YMCA and like basically everywhere other than Acton, I would see, like Newfound Interest in Connecticut, and they made their own CD cases that were like, they would be die cut and they would be like intricate. So I started doing that kind of stuff. And it was like, it all came out of like what I was seeing these people do in other places where I was going to all ages shows. And then you would have seen me doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we
And then
continued
did
from
the
there.
same thing. Yeah.
We did the same thing.
Yeah. So I basically, I would, after the punk band, that was kind of, we had an older friend named Andrew MacArthur who was very generous to us, as Andrew was 3 years older than you.
Yeah.
So
Can I tell a quick Andrew story
Sure.
to give context of that? So when I'd never touched drugs, anything. I think I snuck a beer maybe like once when I was in grade 8. And within like the first week of high school, I was like underneath the half pipe, like smoking a joint for the first time ever, and going up to the person who gave it to me like 4 hours later being like, I think I'm starting to feel it. But I was just like, I wanted to fit in so bad that I would have done anything. Someone could have put crack cocaine in front of me and I probably would have done it. And I just happened to stumble upon like a band called Bikes, who were a ska band who were from Milton.
Oh, cool.
And I started posting on their website, on their message board, like fan posting about literally just a local Milton band that went to like the public high school. And it turned out that Andrew MacArthur, who was their bass player, his girlfriend's name was Kristen, and she went to our high school. She was a couple years older than me. She found out who I was in real life, and she basically took me under hers and Andrew's wing, and they were like obsessed with like International Noise Conspiracy and Refused.
Yeah.
And they were straight edge.
Yeah.
And so because of them, I became straight edge, and I essentially learned everything I knew about the scene from them.
And then I became straight edge.
And then Jeff became straight edge.
Yeah.
So,
So basically, Andrew, was very, and Kristen, very, very kind to us as younger people. And Andrew gave me a mix CD that had a bunch of like metalcore on it.
Okay.
So, Dillinger Escape Plan, Every Time I Die, Nora, Trustkill, like all the Trustkill stuff.
Ferret Records.
Yeah. Ferret. Yeah.
Unearth,
Yeah.
you really like
Unearth.
Unearth.
Oh yeah. I loved Unearth. So he started like taking me to shows. I went to see Dillinger Escape Plan and Every Time I Die at the Opera House. Silverstein opened. And so then I was like, wow, like I love this music.
Yeah.
And so that's what I started playing. So we started a metalcore band called M Code, and we had a few drummers, and then we moved to Kelly. So he started playing drums with us, and then we kind of, I don't know. I mean, now we're skipping forward because
that is kind of where we are though. Like,
Yeah.
but now at this point in time, I'm like, I'm in college, I guess.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And we made two bands out of the same group of people.
yeah,
We had Cain and Abel, which was my band, and then we had M Code, which was Jeff's band, and both bands had the same lineup. For a very short period of time before that, I was in Most Serene Republic, and I had grown up with the guys from Most Serene Republic, went to high school with them, was on that first record, and then Cain and Abel was what I did after that once I went away to school. So we essentially had this weird mix where it was the exact same people in both bands.
except for a screamer.
Except for Screamer, yeah.
different
Cain
Screamer.
and Abel didn't have a Screamer.
Yeah, yeah.
But we would sometimes go and play shows and be both bands.
Yeah,
Were the people in the band playing the same instrument each band?
Yeah.
People swap.
Yeah, no. It was all the same. Yeah. So it made practicing really easy.
Yeah, I bet.
Made practicing really easy. And yeah, so I mean, it's crazy because like that wasn't really like M Code was not really a band only for a few years. But like, I was in high school and we would go, played in Montreal a few times, go around Ontario. We opened for Protest the Hero. We opened for, was it On Broken Wings?
Yeah, we toured in a Pontiac Grand Prix with an old repurposed U-Haul trailer.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So we were doing all this cool shit, and I would go to Guelph to see shows. Like I saw Dillinger Escape Plan at it used to be called the Trashateria.
Yeah, that's called Vinyl.
Yeah, with the Locust, and saw Unearth there. Like literally, the stage was probably about as wide as this room.
Yeah.
Like just crazy shows. Or go to shows at the Underground, all that stuff.
And at this time, we're the only people from where we are that are like in bands.
Yeah.
Like you were certainly the only person. There was like a couple like high school bands, but you were definitely the only person who was like in grade 10 or grade 11 who was going to across Southern Ontario into Quebec playing shows and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And even when I was in school, I was kind of like basically not paying attention to school. I still did fine, but I did just enough to get by to not like, to be able to pass and graduate. But my entire focus was playing in the band.
I told the guidance counselor, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him play in a band, and he's like, seems like you're really passionate about it. You should do that. And I told my dad, and he's like, he said what?
And get that man fired.
Yeah, he's like, he should have told you to go into the trades. Yeah, well, what are you going to do? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we did that for a little while, and then...
Was M Code and Cain and Abel the first band that you two were playing in together, or had you played together?
Yeah. So that was the first. Yeah. So Peter had played. He played a lot of things on. Well, no, I guess you didn't actually on the first Cain and Abel thing. You kind of had just musicians.
I had a band. I played my guitar and I wrote the songs, but I had a group of people, most of whom were not M Code. Actually, I think other than Kelly, it was not M Code.
Yeah, and then we eventually put the bands together. I think it was kind of just like almost for convenience because you were playing with Kelly.
Yes.
And then it made sense. We're like, well, you know what? Why Jordan, who plays bass in M Code, why don't you play bass in Cain and Abel as well? Jeff, you can play guitar. Like it just made sense.
Right.
I think just logistically, it just made sense.
And the other thing to note too is that Jeff and I were not close before that. Like we weren't like at each other's throats, but there was a pretty big period of time, like pretty much until I went away to school, where like I would go see your band play, but we were not buddies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we weren't like hanging out, like, cause especially later on, people thought that like our friend Dylan's parents literally thought that Jeff and I were a gay couple. Like when we stayed at his house, and even Jeff and I went in Teenage Kicks and did an interview at Humber, and the girl who had brought us in was like texted us while we were on our way home, and she's like, "Are they lovers? The students?" like we were
we weren't even doing anything.
The shared last name just means marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
But we were inseparable, and that's how most people think of Jeff and I. And, and until we started playing together in that band, we really were not like that.
Right. Yeah. Kind of beautiful to think that the music united the relationship.
Well, I mean, that's kind of I would consider that to be the case with most of my close relationships are based on music.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of the time that's kind of when we see each other, you know, like it's hard to maintain those relationships without music.
Yeah.
Especially when you're straight edge. And we weren't like getting into trouble either, right? Like, so it was like, we literally, our free time was spent either playing shows or practicing. Like, I don't really remember a lot from once I started playing music that wasn't that, you know?
Well, I think both Peter and I have a difficult time relating to people. Even when I was playing in that band, playing, metalcore, I didn't feel like I was a part of that scene.
Right.
There's very few people that were in that scene that I would still consider to be my friends. Like Shay is one of them. That's how I met Shay, like way back. And it was just like, I just never felt like I was a part of that.
Yeah.
And I still don't. When I go to hardcore shows, I feel incredibly out of place.
Right. Which is, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of something that I feel like I've talked about before, where like, there's a big difference between growing up in a large town with lots of culture and art and music that you just absorb naturally versus growing up in a small town in which you don't have easy access to that. And you either have to travel far to get access to it, or you have to make it happen on your own.
Right.
And the story that you're telling me is interesting because it felt like you were doing both. You were also going out to go to shows in other cities, but you're also trying to make that same thing happen where you lived.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of the best bands that I've ever seen or recorded or worked with or had the pleasure of hanging out with are the bands that just like, oh yeah, we have nothing going on. We just have to do that. Like it almost becomes a necessity for some musicians more than just a hobby that you're doing on the side, killing a summer between college semesters or whatever.
Yeah. We were also like, we were fans. Like I remember going to a lot of shows in Toronto and waiting outside so I could see the movie Life, or I could see, like Thrice, like very, very early on when they would come through. Or like even when I became friends with Billy from Silverstein, Billy was really young when he started touring. He was only a year older than me. And so I felt like I was like living vicariously through Billy, just like hearing like about all the cool things you got to do if you went on tour. And he was, straight edge as well. And I just was like excited about the idea of music. I've talked about this a little bit before in other podcasts of just like, we would take a trip to Toronto, go to Rotate This, go through the used CD bin. Then you buy your CDs, you start going through the lyric book, find out who those bands thank. Then you find those bands. There was just like this, like I really was excited about music. Not like, I think doing live sound for 7 years at bars in Toronto kind of like sucks it out of you a little bit. But still, sometimes, you see something like a young band or something like that, and you're like, whoa, like even like I was in a horrendous mood when we went to it because I was running on 2 hours sleep. But like that Oasis show, like it was like, you're kind of like, whoa, it makes you feel like, oh yeah, right. This is why, I wanted to play music in the first time, because that you get to see that like larger than life aspect of music.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's on a huge stage like that. And sometimes it's, a stage at Sneaky D's and you're just seeing a band that is just like locked into something that, is kind of incalculable.
Well, I mean, you did sound for Pine Grove.
I did. Yeah. Really early on.
The Cave. And Peter was doing sound
like
there.
13 people or something like that.
Yeah. So like that was before they had just put out their like
everything's so
EPs.
far.
Their EP compilation. And he told me about them and I'm like, damn, this band is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I ran a show for them at Smiling Buddha. Same thing. More people there, but it was like 80 people.
Yeah.
Going to last time they played in Toronto, they played the Phoenix.
Yeah. if you like log their progress on a scale, it's like a logarithmic,
Yeah.
increase in fans.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up like, doing live sound in a venue for 7 years will kind of kill it for you, and then you have these reminders of why you love it. Like I think as you get older, and especially when you work in music and it's your entire life, like it's not a hobby anymore. It's not the thing you look forward to because it's just every aspect of your life. Those special moments are a little bit few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
But when they do happen, it feels even more monumental because it's like, I've seen 100 bands this year, and the one of the 100 that is blowing my mind, like there's obviously something special about that, and that sticks with you. Versus when you're younger, and every band that you see blows your mind.
Well, and even with the the absolute onslaught of new music that we have, and everyone complains of like, well, there's no good new music. It's like there is, and it comes out like that Sam Fender record. I just went and saw him last night, but that his record that came out this year is incredible. It's like, wow, this is like what, 10 or 11 just fantastic songs, fantastic songwriting done well. Just a band together playing these songs, and it's like it does still exist, and it will, if you seek it out, you will be able to find it, and it will get you excited about making music and listening to music and whatever it is you do that is related to music.
Music in the year 2025 is like, this perception of like, oh, there's so much shit out there. But it's not that there's more bad music out there. So it's more accessible to find the bad
exactly.
music. Back in the day, if you're, going through a dollar bin, even now, if you go through a dollar bin, like all the records that came out in the 50s and 60s and 70s that went
nobody
nowhere.
knew about.
Exactly.
You look at an old Rolling Stone issue and then look at the top 30. And you won't recognize 20 of those acts. It's hard because, you think there is a lot of crap, and there is, but then and I know I'm probably late to this because I know a lot of people like them already, but I just listened to Geese the other day for the first time, and I was like, whoa, and it gave me that little sparkle inside of I was like, oh, that would be an idea, you know what I mean? Like you hear music in a different way than you were before, and it's still possible to do that and to have that, but it is definitely interesting once you you do music all the time. You mix, and you also play in bands, and you engineer, and you produce. So it's like you and I are every aspect of our life is music. Right. Jeff gets to kind of music is your relief in a way. Right. Which
my stress.
Which is I can't, sometimes I have to remind myself that, oh no, I am lucky to have the opportunity to do this, because there are worse ways of being able to make ends meet,
I mean, sometimes the worst day as a musician is better than the best day at an office job, but that's not the case for everybody. I think the people who are drawn to it and continue to do it, kind of like I said about people who grew up in small towns, is it almost feels like it's a necessity. You don't choose it, it chooses you. But to kind of roll back a little bit, I'd be remiss if we didn't have a conversation about the almighty Teenage Kicks. And if you're from the Southern Ontario area and you hear that name, it for a lot of people probably sparks a lot of memories, a lot of joy. There's kind of an iconic nature to that band in this area. So I kind of want to hear your guys' story about how that came to be and how it kind of snowballed into what it became.
So basically, we made a record as Cain and Abel, a proper record that was on a record label. It was called Sunday League Records, which was run by this guy named Serge Sargento, who has re-entered my life as the Glorious Sons tour manager. But at the time, he was a guy from Brampton who ran shows, and he started this record label that had distribution through Universal. And we made a record that was really quite ambitious. It was essentially pop punk Sufjan Stevens. It had all this extra stuff. I just remember
Dan Weston recorded
Dan Weston recorded it.
And he did a fantastic job.
Produced it. And I remember sitting in we recorded the whole thing in the back of his parents' shoe warehouse in a thing he called the Box. and you could only record at night.
Mm.
So I was going to school, going to class during the day, and then going to Dan's at night and recording at night. And Jeff and George were still in high school.
Yeah, we were in high school.
Right. So they kind of did their stuff, and then that was like the extent of their contribution. Whereas poor Dan had to sit with me while I had people come in and be like, we're going to do 3 banjo parts over here. And like someone playing the like French horn and like just like all this stuff. Cause I was just listening to a lot of stuff that was like concept albums and all this stuff. So we made this.
Well, I have a distinct memory of Dan
crossing dates out on a calendar.
and saying,
weekends.
fuck my life, fuck my life, fuck my life.
Like crossing, literally like visually crossing weekends out. He's like, well, there that goes. And I remember the budget for that record was like $3,500 or something like that. And that included, we went to Metalworks. I think we recorded like drums there. Like it was like, he made nothing on that. So anyways, so we made that record, and almost as soon as that record came out, Jeff decided that he didn't want to be in the band anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
And so Cain and Abel, I promise this is relevant. Cain and Abel basically continued with myself, Kelly.
Because George left.
Because George left with Jeff.
Yeah.
Myself, Kelly, and then Paul Russo, who's now in Silverstein, who was someone that we had met through, he was in a band called Only Still, right?
Yeah.
At that time, which was like a kind of like a proggy pop punk band that was from Burlington. We met him, he played the bass, and then Christian Turner, who I had kind of had a band with when he was, in grade 10 in high school, when I was living not in my parents' house. We had like this like screamo pop punk kind of band that was living with this family that like let me stay with them. And that was a very short period of time, but that's how I met CT. And Paul, who was from Burlington, and anyone who like grew up going to shows in Burlington and, Oakville at the Y, like that was a very regimented scene, like not to say that there wasn't a place for expression, but it was like, that was a scene. Christian was someone who literally would wear whatever clothes someone gave to him. He had the worst mohawk I've ever seen. And he was playing like a BC Rich Warlock, which now if he played the guitar, I'd be like, that is so sick.
Cool student
But
room.
but at the time that was like, what are you doing?
Well, and also, I mean, like Christian was a prodigy of like classic rock.
Yeah, Van Halen.
He learned Eruption within like 4 months of picking up a guitar
when he was in grade 8.
Yeah.
And that was like there was so much lore around Christian.
Yeah.
So when Paul caught eyes on him, just like the idea that we would present this band to people was such a confusing image. He started giving him clothes. We like dressed them. Like it was just like, we made this like very like tight like package, and not because we were trying to manipulate it. That was just what you did at that point in time. Right. So we made a new version of the band. It was almost like not the same band in any way, shape, or form. It was definitely Attack and Black Worship. I had an Attack and Black shirt for every single day of the week. And we made like 2 EPs in very, very close relation to the album coming out. We played a bunch in Southern Ontario. We were getting pretty like, decently big. Like at that time you make $150 from a show and, you're like, whoa, like this is amazing because you're all living at home and everything was cheap. And we were only that version of the band for a very short period of time. And then Paul left.
Yeah, Paul left.
And we basically broke the band up. Kelly went off and played with something with Paul.
With Paul's band first, Burst and Bloom.
Yeah.
And then he went to Dead
I'm
and
Committing
Divine.
a Sin first.
Oh, was it I'm Committing a Sin before Dead and
Yeah.
Divine? Yeah, that makes sense.
And then CT and I started Ulysses and the Siren, which was the band that became Teenage Kicks. We did that band. Jeff joined that band. That was the first time Jeff had ever played bass. That was Jeff, first time he'd ever sang harmonies, like all of these things that Jeff had never really done. He came in, we did that. CT goes, he literally just disappears.
I think he joined I'm Committing a Sin.
But he disappeared first.
Okay, he disappeared and then he did. Okay.
Yeah, because we went to do that organ donor session at Ryerson and he just didn't show up.
Yeah, okay.
So basically,
sorry, Christian.
Yes, sorry, Christian.
Sorry.
So basically the band, then Jeff and I are living in Guelph and we decide we're going to move to Toronto. We're going to give this like one last shot. And that's when Pat enters the picture, who was someone that we grew up with. And we all moved, and but Cam was already in the band at the time.
Yeah.
And we moved to Toronto. And then it was very fast. We the 2 songs that came out as the first Teenage Kicks 7-inch were 2 songs that were Ulysses and the Siren songs. So they were already kind of ready to go. That came out, and I still distinctly remember, like, Pat was like someone people really liked, and Pat was very conscious of style and stuff, which I was like a little bit conscious of image, but probably not conscious enough. And once Pat got in the band and we were kind of like, conscious of what we looked like and what, the shows themselves and photos of the band, all this
and
stuff.
We hired a publicist.
All this stuff. And again, not in like a calculated way, but because we were like, oh, like this is what professional bands do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, we'd be out in Toronto and people would like recognize us and come up to us. Like you could like feel like the excitement and like the energy of it. And it was just kind of like, it was just up for a period of time.
Well, and it was at that time too. There was a great scene
In Toronto
for rock bands in Toronto, and we all knew each other.
Who were your peers at that time?
Dinosaur Bones, Sandman, Viper Command, The Balconies.
I mean, that was early Monster Truck.
Yeah, I was gonna say early Monster Truck as well.
Gentleman Husband.
Bad Ideas.
Yeah, Bad Ideas. Who else? Trying to think who else. But anyways, there was a lot of Self-Made Man was another one.
Oh yeah.
There was like just a lot of
Clothes Make the Man.
Or Clothes Make the Man, sorry.
Yeah.
A lot of bands who were playing and people were excited to see shows. And then we were coming in and we had really had honed like songwriting through Cain and Abel. Like I was writing these like very succinct, like 3-minute songs that, had hooks and were well thought out. And then I was like, having played with Kelly, I had very, very like strict expectations of what a band was supposed to sound like live because Kelly's drumming was just so tight. It was like, I don't think we realized how lucky we were to play with someone like that until he was gone. Mm-hmm. And so I was very hard on Cam early on, but Cam's a great drummer.
Cam had already, he had all the
tools.
Yeah. Cam was like fantastic, like very well practiced drummer. From a teen,
right?
As well,
yeah. And then it kind of became this thing that we just like we put out Brooklyn Bridge, and I opened up my email one day at work, and it was like someone from Atlantic Records, and they were like, "Yeah, so we heard this song of yours, and we'd like to send like 2 A&R reps to see you play on Friday." And this is actually even before that. We had just that 7-inch, and there was this band called Mona who ended up being horrendous.
Yeah.
But they had
we thought they were going to be really, really good.
They had this first single that was really, really good. And we found it and they were playing it on the radio in the UK on XFM, which is like, that's like their big like rock radio station. Right. So one of the benefits of like that early stage of the band was no one had ever let us down. No one had ever said no to us. Mm. So we had like no fear.
Naivety, right?
Yeah.
You can email someone and ask them for something and it's totally fine.
And at the time too, I don't think people were as inundated with like, bands. Like now you go to that website where you pay people to review your stuff and they're even like, I'm not taking submissions because there's too much music.
Yeah.
But we basically emailed the main guy, Jamie Kennedy, who was supposed to be
John Kennedy.
John Kennedy. Sorry, not Jamie. Anyways, it's the prank guy.
Yeah.
John Kennedy, who is supposed to be like this generation's
John Peel.
And you're good with names, Jeff. Jeff's good with the names.
Yeah. So we emailed him.
Filling in the blanks.
Yeah. And we were like, hey, you play this band. We think that you'd like our band too. And he like added us to the radio in the UK like that.
And he played us every day for like a month.
Whoa.
So now if this had happened at this time, we would be like, okay, let's get on a plane. We're going to find some shows and we're going to play in the UK.
Right.
Yeah.
But at that time we were poor and, in our early 20s and we're like, how are we supposed to afford plane tickets to the UK? Like didn't even cross our mind.
Right.
And now you've also skipped over the very important piece that all those years of like Cain and Abel, Peter had recorded.
Oh yeah, I learned how to record.
Peter had learned how to record a bunch of stuff. So like the Teenage Kicks stuff, like we did the Ulysses going into Teenage Kicks, we did that in our house in Guelph.
Our loft.
In this loft house, had a cool like, cool upstairs thing. So we did the drums, we did the guitars, we did everything there.
Through
Peter
a
mixed it.
PreSonus
Yeah,
8-channel,
really.
The one that everybody had in 2008 or whatever.
Exactly,
on
exactly.
a cracked version of Nuendo 2.3 or something like that.
And then same thing with the first EP as well, Rational Anthems. When we moved to Toronto, Peter recorded and mixed all that too.
Yeah.
So we were doing things on the cheap,
And we were doing
because no money.
Yeah, and we were doing all of our own graphic design. Like, everything was like in-house to some extent. But so he played us, he told us that we should come, and we just didn't I think getting on the radio is so easy. We were like, it would be nice to go, but we didn't think that like, oh, this is an opportunity that's like probably never going to happen again.
Right.
And through that process, there was this guy named Jacob Smid, who was like second from the top at Live Nation, who was over in the UK and heard us on the radio over there. And he sends us an email and he's like, hey, like heard you on the radio, would love to connect. And so then that started a friendship, and he would throw us like, we played with almost all of our big shows. Yeah, Kaiser Chiefs. We played with that guy who did the Sail song.
AWOL Nation.
AWOL Nation.
He's
But
got
like
a metalcore band now.
Yeah, oh nice.
Well,
But like yeah.
Whoa.
But like
And they're touring they were just on tour with Deftones.
oh, that's unreal.
Yeah.
But like big, like, like real shows, which up to that point, we'd played all ages shows in like, Optimus halls and YMCAs. And so then from that, maybe 2 months later, it's like we get this email from Atlantic Records being like, oh, we're going to send 2 people to go see you play. We play. It was literally like the scene from Wayne's World where Mr. Big comes up after the show. Like they came up, they gave us their card. They're like, we love the band. We want to work with you. And that started like our relationship with Warner. And at that point, which is only in the first 4 or 5 months of the band, we're like, we can only go up from here.
Yeah.
Right.
And from there, it was like
all down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like in terms of like we did things that we were proud of, but in terms of like forward momentum, it was nothing ever like met that expectation of, like we signed a record contract and we went and made the record in LA, but then the record contract within 2 weeks of us signing a record contract, EMI got sold to Universal.
So we were the last band that EMI signed.
Right.
Yeah.
And they signed us to a crazy deal because they were like, there's no consequences here. Yeah. Like, and they're like, they know that they're getting sold.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're like, this will be off our books.
Yeah.
So when we had been talking to Warner, and we'd been dealing with Warner for probably like a year.
We were managed by someone
From-
who was the head of A&R at Warner, but wasn't managing us for Warner.
Yeah. So he was managing us for his own thing. So Warner had basically thought, oh, well, we're going to get this band, obviously, because you're managing them. But all of the deals, well, I guess there was really only one option for deals, and it was, this length or longer. And it was all 360 deals.
Right.
And so we're looking at this and we're like, okay, so you're taking.
They did offer us a lot of money. They originally only wanted to offer us what they were offering everyone else, which was a development deal. And then we played that show at the Alma Combo because I gave this big, again, not afraid. I gave a big impassioned speech in the like boardroom at Warner. I was like, we need to make an album, none of this EP shit. And I still remember Steve Kane in the mosh pit at the show at the Alma Combo, and he comes out of the mosh pit and he goes up to Jason Murray and he's like, you're right, it has to be an album. It was just like, it was like so sweaty. It was like, but again, it was like, I had no fear. It was like, as long as I like believe this is going to happen, it's going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
So continue.
Now he lives with so much fear every single day.
Oh,
all fear. Yeah. All fear all the time.
I'm
a fear-based
on
economy,
fear.
and we are rich.
We are a fear-based band.
Yeah, I mean, all they could offer us were 360 deals. So
Right.
it's like, okay, so we're gonna go out on the road. You're gonna take from everything, even before we take away our costs. Right. You're gonna be taking, and you're gonna, give us what was it, $200,000?
It was
for the first record, and we're like,
it was like the largest amount of money they'd offered a band in a long time.
Right.
But it was like there was like a sunset clause. Like it was like, so like we would have never made a cent ever again.
Yeah, there was no way we would possibly ever recoup. And so we're like, how are we supposed to do this? If we're going to try and be a sustainable band, if we're going to try and make this our living, how can we start that with, we're in the hole 200 grand.
Yeah.
So for context, a 360 deal is basically when a label just takes every part of the band,
yeah,
whether it's
piece of
merch,
every
whether it's
part.
the record, whether it's
Management,
a live,
everything.
Yeah.
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 So were they locking you into, you're in a 3, however many
It was
year
like
deal?
7 records.
Yeah.
It was a long deal.
That's
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, but
Wow.
that was what they were offering. I think I remember at the time, Single Mothers got offered a similar deal, like lengthwise through Vice Records, who was through Warner,
Right.
but not for the same money. So that was like the standard of deal that they were putting in front of people, was like 7 records or whatever with the sunset clause at the end of it. So it was like an intense thing, and because we had done so much ourselves, and Jeff and I, for the first part of Teenage Kicks, we were like managing a warehouse in Mississauga. So Teenage Kicks was like completely self-sustained.
Mhm.
We didn't owe money to anyone. We didn't overspend. So we weren't rolling in it.
Bought the van.
But yeah, we bought the van. So
Yeah.
we didn't owe money on the van.
Yeah.
Our jam space was where we lived. We were recording ourselves. We were doing our own like graphic design. Like everything for the most part was in-house. So we had like, and still do to this day, a fairly serious like fear of debt, of like a lot of bands will just be like, you got to spend money to make money, which I understand that. We were on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where we were like, well, it wasn't that we wanted to be rich. It was that we didn't want to be poor, like in the sense of like in the negative poor, we wanted to be able to like we didn't need, like Jeff and I, once we stopped being warehouse managers, we were both probably living off of $1,200 or $1,300 a month.
Some
Like and
some
being
minimum wage jobs,
being
working,
totally fine. So
Yeah.
we didn't need a lot of money to survive, but we had a really hard time understanding how you could spend $200,000 and be that far in debt and ever get out of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious, like, where were these values, especially from a financial perspective, like where were these values instilled in you? Did you have a band to look up to be like, oh, they did this, we want to mimic that, or they did that and it didn't work out well
Our
for
dad.
them?
Yeah.
Your father.
Yeah.
Our dad hates
Yeah.
debt.
Yeah.
And also our dad is very principled. Like my dad owned our dad's, right? Jeff, this is how I'm going to tell you. It's not your dad. Our dad owned like 3 rental properties in Guelph. And as soon as it became like a pain in the ass, he sold them and he lost money on them. He didn't care. He was like, I want to be happy and I don't want to be stressed.
Mhm.
Well, happy is relative to my
Yeah.
father, at least
Yeah.
at that time. But he was like, I don't want to be stressed. It's not worth the stress. Money is not worth the stress. And so I think from a very young age, Jeff and I realized that like we've both are better than my dad in the sense that like I will not make my wife unhappy over money. Like my dad definitely made my mom unhappy. Like I understand that like also money is just a fucking thing and like you can't let it like run your life like that. But he definitely taught us that like to go needlessly into debt didn't make sense.
Right.
It wasn't going to make you happier, So we've both, well, you needed a second. You had some debts that I helped you and then dad helped you with. But since you've been an adult, you've been good.
I think that's a really interesting point to say that, you have a certain value, whether it's that value or a different value, you have a value instilled within you. And a person that you're in a band with has that exact same value.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a contributing factor to the success of what you've done together? Just knowing that you're like been on the same page with almost everything, or have you not been on the same page? Do you think?
Well, I mean,
band,
I
we've
think,
always been pretty
yeah. I mean, I think it like as far as being in a band goes, if it's not good, it's not fun.
Right.
Like for both of us, that is like table stakes. Are you good?
Mhm.
Are we going to go and get up on stage and not embarrass ourselves? Like, and be better than that? Are people going to watch us and be like, damn, that's a good band. Damn, those harmonies sounded great tonight. Or,
Yeah.
Like that's kind of table stakes.
To a detriment though, because like when we were looking for drummers, we would have people come we had this one guy come who he had the Joey Jordison black cymbals, and the first thing he did was crack a beer, and he played half of a song. And I said to Jeff, I was like, Jeff, I talked to you in the other room, and I was like, Jeff, this guy, I'm fucking done. I'm not like wasting my time. And Jeff's like, everyone in the world is going to hate you if you don't like. He's like, just let 1/2 hour of your life go by with this guy.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to go tell him off because he wasted 3 minutes of your life. But like that's how like serious that desire to like be good,
Right.
Is for the both of us.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, I mean, I would say for all of the time that I've been in bands, I don't think that I've played in a band that is like that the members feel like it, like Peter does.
Right.
And like I do, because it's just like, I don't know, it's just something about making music. It's like respect for the craft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, especially now, I'm in my mid to late 30s, and it's like, I'm not doing it for fun. It is fun to me, but it's like, it costs money, costs time. Like there's a lot of things in my life that I could be doing instead of playing music, but I do it because it's a compulsion.
Yeah.
Like I need to do it.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to do it, it has to be at a certain level.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be miserable.
Yeah.
Like
I think that mindset is incredibly important to have being in a band, whether you're on a global scale or a local scale. Like, I've always shared that same mindset of just like, if you're going to do it, be the absolute best at it that you possibly can. Because I don't understand why you would do something and not try to be the best at it. You know what I mean? Like, and I do feel like that's sometimes a divisive opinion.
100%.
And
for sure,
and I think discipline within music, I think is lacking sometimes.
Yeah.
And I grew up very similar to you. Like it was like homework and practicing my guitar were like of equal value to me growing up. And I know a lot of people don't have that same kind of regimen, within their life. And music is fun and people want to pursue it as being fun, but it's kind of something that I've never understood. I'm like, why are you doing this passively? Like if you're going to go play a show in front of people, why are you not trying to make this the absolute best possible thing that you could possibly do? And clearly it goes a long way.
Well, I mean, I think it's everything, right? It's not just playing. It's like, okay, if I'm writing a song and I'm going to record that song, I'm not going to write that song and then the next day be like, okay, let's go to the studio. I'm going to write that song. I'm going to, if I'm doing it with the band, I'm going to bring it to the band. Okay, let's work on this song. Okay, we're going to spend probably 2 or 3 practices getting this song right. And then we'll probably demo it. And then I'll listen to that demo. I'll listen to that demo 40, 50 times and be like, okay, what is it missing?
But I think that's a specific thing though. Like you and I are like that. Like Teenage Kicks was like, this is how it has to be. Your band is like, this is how it has to be. But I do think there are like certain styles of music that there's like some magic that comes out of like people just fucking figuring it out.
For sure.
I mean, I think that is a little more relative to the situation. To be honest, I think it's a perspective thing because I remember the first time I ever played music with people. It was a grade 9 talent show. We played Killing in the Name. We had to change the lyrics because it was a Catholic school. And I remember in that basement, the first time we played together, just fucking noise.
Right.
Like it wasn't like in grade 9, I played that guitar and I was like, oh, I get it. That took a lot of time of like calculated listening and thinking to get to the point where I could kind of like separate instruments and figure out like, and have that like standard. The reason I think some people don't have that standard is that it's not even that you have to want to try. If you don't have that standard, you don't even necessarily know what you're listening for. Mm-hmm. So the perspective of what's good to, like someone you see play a show on a weekend that's maybe just like friends playing, I think their perspective is just different than ours because they maybe haven't thought about it as long. I'm not saying there's an excuse for it because I mixed enough of those bands in my time to be like, I'm just like, I would like to go home now. But I think that like, it's really a skill to learn when it's not good.
Yeah.
you know?
And that's something that I've learned, and I'm sure you guys have learned. It sounds like you definitely have learned this lesson as well. Of like, deeper you get into music, whether you're writing or playing shows or recording, the more that music becomes a dominant part of your life, you start to realize that the magic that you hear about in magazines or video blogs or documentaries isn't quite magic.
No.
It's just people
It's
working
work.
really hard.
Yeah.
And I've probably brought this up before, and if I haven't brought it up on the podcast, it's a good time to talk about it. Like that, Beatles Get Back documentary is a fucking boring slog of a watch. And like, it is the most accurate depiction of what it's like to be in a band and create.
Yeah.
And, the mythical stories around the Beatles, like, oh, they're these geniuses. Like, no, they're just a bunch of guys trying
and those,
it out.
those are people who have the hours of knowing other people's songs too.
Yeah.
So they already have that, like the knowledge base that you need to even be able to sit in that room and make a song.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, that's another piece of it too, is like the quote unquote magic is, as you put more time and effort into it, those things come, and they will come more naturally. And it's not like it's just come out of thin air. It's that you've put in the time and the effort. Like I'm, me as a singer today versus when I was in Teenage Kicks, I sucked at singing, and I mean, even the songwriting.
Yeah.
It's like, because I kept writing songs and I kept singing and I kept learning, so that when I do sit down and write a song now, I go, oh, okay, I like this, and I don't have to second guess myself the way that I would second guess myself when I was writing songs at that time.
Right.
And I can do, like, I wrote a song a few weeks ago and it's like, oh yeah, okay, so that one I actually did. I wrote it on a Thursday, demoed it on a Sunday, and then recorded it at a studio a few weeks later. And I was like, oh, and this is like the final version of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened because now I've written, probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 songs or 40 or 50 songs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, it's a craft, right?
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
When when dad comes to my house to help me with some work, and he's a little bit better about it now, but like when we were growing up, he wouldn't tell me what he was doing. And then I would like try to screw something in and I'm not holding the screw gun straight. And so I keep missing the head. It keeps coming off the screw. And he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And it's like, record a fucking song, Dad. Like, let me know how that goes. Because it's a craft, right? It's a skill. Like, I mean, I'm literally taking bass lessons right now. I keep wanting to message the guy. It's like, it's like one of those video classes online. I keep wanting to message the guy to tell him how great of an instructor I think he is. But I'm like, I'm in like an established band as the bass player, and I'm learning like rudimentary shit that like I should have known 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I can make the bass sound good. I can play the bass well. I can learn a song by ear. I can do all that stuff, but I can't explain to you why it works.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just think that the more you learn and the more time you put into it, then you're able to actually arrive at the destination quicker. And it's like, you don't realize it with every day of work that you put in that you're going to get to that destination quicker.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden one day you'll arrive there and you'll be like, oh, that makes sense. Like now that makes sense as to like why I chose that chord, and you just fucking do it,
Yeah, and kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, Jeff, of like when you are creating a song, you listen to it 30, 40, 50 times to try and figure out what does this need. That's kind of the ticket for a lot of stuff, is actually training your ear to hear like, what is this song comprised of? And I feel like from an early age for me, I listened to music in a very critical way. And like, I grew up loving Blink-182 as well. And like, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket to me is like hearing that record when I was that young. I just needed to figure out how this sounds that way, because it was like the clearest, nicest, most awesome sounding thing ever. And like listening to that record endlessly for the past 20, 25 years, I'm like, I'm still pulling it apart and just be like, oh, there's an octave guitar under that. Like you start to the more you listen to it, the more that your brain starts to kind of pick it apart and try to understand, just being like, okay, what is this thing actually made out of? And the reason I brought up like the the lack of magic in music is because I feel like people don't often realize that like you can also figure it out. You can also just study this stuff enough to understand why your favorite records sound the way they are and why your favorite bands play the way they do. Like just, you know, being able to have the internet and watching all your favorite players, like you have amazing drum cam footage of all the best drummers in the world. Like this is education to me. This is a resource to just being like, okay, how do I figure out how I want to make the sound that I hear in my head? And I feel like a lot of people kind of just stop and just be like, well, that's them and that's not me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have to kind of like slap people and just being like, it can be you. You can also do that thing. Like nobody has that limitation. Anybody can do anything. And that's not hyperbolic at all.
Well, and sometimes it's not as difficult as you think.
Yeah.
Right. Like I was taking vocal lessons for a little bit, and during this time we had done an Oasis cover set pre-reunion.
Before it was cool.
Yeah. And we were doing Morning Glory. And so I'm like, you know, going to my vocal teacher, like I don't want to sound exactly like Liam, but it's like that song is just like a little bit out of my range. So I'm trying to hit the all your dreams are made, and I'm doing it like trying to do it full voice. And he's like, if you listen to the recording, he's probably not doing that actually. He's probably doing it mixed voice. Right. And like he's not pushing as much as you think he is. Yeah. And it's just like, you just have to kind of dig around and be like, how are people actually getting this done? Yeah. You know, like where it doesn't hurt your voice or you're not screaming or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah. We're all humans at the end of the day. And, you know, more or less we have the same capabilities and for a lot of people, the same access to resources, especially now with digital recording and amp sims and all that stuff. Like, even if you love Polyphia and that super tight, like, you know, like you also can get Reaper for free and figure out how to edit drums and grid all that stuff, you know, like it's really not as mystical as people might think it is. You know, music is just another job. Yeah. It's just another job that for some reason crazy people like us can't put down.
Yeah. Well, you know? I mean, that's honestly something that I think about often is like, everyone's got, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have two hands that, you know, work the same as mine. They can get a guitar. They can sing, they can write a song. It's like everyone can do it.
And the beauty of it is like,
other than I forget what the term is called, but there's 4% of the population have like a disease where they basically can't like hear pitch properly. So those people
can.
Those
can't. They can.
They can.
A lot of those people are playing in local bands right now.
Oh boy, Boom still got it.
Shots fired.
That'll be on the Patreon. I feel like we barely scratched the surface of the musical careers that both of you have had in Teenage Kicks and beyond. You know, and I feel like both of you have gone in kind of very different directions in how music plays a part in your life. You have a lot of years under your belt for young listeners out there that are maybe, you know, haven't made their first record yet or haven't gone on tour yet. Like, you know, what are the values that you think are, looking back, you wish you could tell yourself when you're 22 years old?
I do what you love. Like if you don't love what you're doing, take a second look at it, because that's really the only thing that matters. Like especially right now, everything is so fickle. When I think about making music and I think about the music that I'm releasing, am I proud of it? That's it. The only thing that I want to come from music is that I look back, you know, I'm sure that in 10 years, I probably won't be as, you know, I probably won't be making as much music as I'm making now. Right. I want to look back and be like, am I proud of the music that I've written and the music that I've put out? That's it. That's the only thing that matters to me.
Right. And Pete, for you?
So when I was in high school, I learned all that stuff. I learned to record. I learned a lot of that DIY stuff, that would be my first thing is I think that you should learn as much stuff learn as much stuff yourself as possible. One thing that I did not do that well learning all of that stuff is that I didn't let a lot of people in. So I think that you need to be able to find that fine line of collaboration, because I do think that working with other people makes you better, but just knowing how to do stuff yourself so that you can always kind of like pick up the slack when it's needed. But when I was younger, I thought I was already good, and I wasn't. I didn't really start practicing until I was like a grown man who had almost no chance of playing music. When I was not in a band, not even working for a band, I was working at Shopify. And I got a call to be the guitar tech of the Glorious Sons when I was 36 years old. And I became their bass player when I was like 37 years old. And I thought that there was no world where I was going to get to be able to play music and have that be like my job, my living. So I think that you're never too old to do it, but you really have to care and you have to work hard for it. There's like just no way around it. Like I said, I'm over 40 and a half. I'm going to be 41 in 5 months or whatever, 6 months. And I'm taking bass lessons, to learn how to play with my fingers because I never learned that the right way. And I'm reading books about songwriting and I'm, I just think it's important to know that there's always more that you can learn.
Yeah.
Much less concise than what Jeff said, but
no, I think what both of you have said are extremely important and they seem very broad, but there's a lot of what we do within of just being proud of what you do and working hard.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. But I really appreciate you two having a chat with me. I really feel like we can do a part 2 or 3 or 4. Like there's a lot that we haven't touched on.
We didn't even get to the breakup and nothing like
no,
that.
I really would love to talk about the line on your Wikipedia page that says, Pete says there will never be a reunion. And there was a reunion. I'd love to get to that story on part 2 maybe. But thank you so much.
No problem.
And,
thank you, Vince.
For the rest of your time in Hamilton
Thank
today.
you. I will.
And there you have it, episode 9 of the Build Your Own Band podcast with Pete and Jeff Van Helvoort. Thank you, Pete and Jeff, for coming onto the show. I'm sorry it took so long to put this episode out, but I'm glad it's finally out. If you're unfamiliar with their band, Teenage Kicks, go out and check them out. They're a kick-ass rock band. And although they said they would never get back together, they played a reunion show a few years ago, and I'm always kind of sitting on the edge of my seat if there's ever going to be another one. Until then, check out Pete's music. You could follow him on Instagram at PeterVHMusic, or you could check out some of his solo stuff. Check out Darling Congress and Teenage Kicks. All of those accounts are linked in his bio. And similarly, go give Jeff a follow at given_name_fan club on Instagram. His solo stuff rocks. So Must Emma is one of the best underrated heavy bands of all time. Definitely check that stuff out. But most importantly, go spin Actor's brand new single, Golden Youth, which you can check out right now. And it's linked in the show notes below. Thank you for taking time to listen to this episode. I cannot guarantee when there might be another one. And in a similar vein to a potential Teenage Kicks reunion, see you on the next one, ?